I want to know more about what's driving the market. You had a big question about, are people moving to other EVs? And there's an interesting article in the, first off, there's an interesting car that launched, the Li Auto Mega MPV. Have you seen this thing? So
MPV.
It's a minivan, but it looks like, it has like cushy seats that recline. It has all the niceties that these Chinese EVs tend to have. And so stunning electric minivan from Li Auto, the Mega MPV, dubbed the highway bullet train due to its shape and ability to travel 311 miles in a 12-minute charge, while Musk's waste every second on toxic identity politics. The Chinese are crushing Tesla in innovation. Unclear if that's what's actually going on. We'll see how this actually performs on the road, but they are moving quickly, and it's putting pressure on Porsche as well. There was an article in the New York Times why Porsche is no longer a premium sports car in China that I thought we might want to read through. After decades of dominating China's market for high-performance cars with precision engineering, German automakers are losing out to Chinese rivals that have shifted the definition of a high-end car to one that is electric, smart, and affordable. Many new Chinese vehicles resemble their German rivals, like the wildly popular Xiaomi SU7, which is a phone company. Remember, Xiaomi makes phones, and now they make cars. And this mimics Porsche's Taycan. The SU7 rivals the Taycan in power and braking, but it also includes integrated artificial intelligence that can, for instance, help with parking and greet drivers with their favorite song. The cherry on top, it sells for roughly half the price of a Taycan.
Yeah, the problem is, a lot of the wow factor elements of a Tesla early on were the software side. And the issue is like software is just so much easier to copy. So like not only do the Chinese are like the best in the world at manufacturing today, at least like, mass market consumer products, they also can very quickly emulate. It's like, oh, Tesla makes a fart sound. If you hit the right button, we can do that, but we'll like play your favorite song when you come in. It's like
exactly
that ability to sort of spark joy or have some fun with the user is just so much easier to copy, and not a durable moat.
Yeah, a big driver here is that a lot of the Chinese population is buying cars for the first time. And so they're not like, oh, well, I had a poster of a Carrera GT on my wall, and then I rented a Cayman, and I know what a flat six sounds like, and so I really want a naturally aspirated V8 in my next car. They're just like, one car, please. And what is a car? Oh, it's electric now. Great, like that's fine. Like this is the best car. Great. And so
the other thing that happens
cars, but they're working.
Is as Chinese consumer products and brands like started to work internationally, I do think that the Chinese consumer started to say Chinese products are cool now. Yeah, it's a small thing of like, oh, you're using TikTok overseas? Cool. Oh, you're using DJI overseas?
Yep.
Okay, why aren't we just buying our own brands?
Yeah.
Like these are, I'm sure some of these brands are coveted and cool in the Chinese market, even though as American consumers, like, it means nothing, like the SU7 or whatever. To me, that sounds like I don't want to knock off Macan.
Exactly.
But to them, they're like, that might be like a super desirable vehicle.
Yeah. So the SU7 sold 100,000 cars last year, and Porsche has been one of the hardest hit. They reported that last month its deliveries in China plunged 28% in 2024. Although Porsche's sales were up in every other region around the world, the decline in China was significant enough to pull down global deliveries for the year. For years, German automakers relied on the Chinese market to make up for weaker demand elsewhere, leading them to ignore deeper structural issues at home. Chief among them was the reluctance to adopt the technology that has come to define driving in China: electric vehicles equipped with sophisticated software and increasingly artificial intelligence. The German but also the American and Japanese, Korean, established Western manufacturers have greatly underestimated the development dynamics of the Chinese manufacturers, namely the importance of electromobility and software-defined vehicles. And so, China is building, their grid from scratch. They're building their roads from scratch. So they're going to have a fresh start, greenfield opportunity. They can build their cities and roads for electric vehicles to put less stress on the grid, and actually
they can probably get more access to transformers to actually because they're making a lot of them. And fundamentally people
are just fine with these electric cars. The Chinese are also doing something interesting where there's a few electric cars that they're kind of a reverse hybrid. So instead of it being a gas powered engine with an electric motor that gives it a little extra boost or makes the range a little bit further or just improves the gas mileage, it's actually essentially an electric car, but with a really small petrol engine or gasoline engine that can then just charge the battery, and that's all it does. And so you'll see these cars where it's, you know, a 300-mile battery charged, but then you get another 300 miles if you fill the gas tank. And so all of a sudden your range is like 600 miles, and you can stop at a gas station if you have range anxiety. So they've completely solved that problem of like, oh, if I get an electric car, I can't go on the road trip. But now you can, because you just fill back up, but you're still getting all the benefits of the electric powertrain and all that, and all the reliability and stuff. So
it's interesting to see
that hasn't happened in America, because people have either been all in on EV, it's got to be EV, Tesla doesn't touch internal combustion engines, or, you know, oh, we wouldn't put any electrical components in this, hybrids are bad, we need to be naturally aspirated V8s all the way. China has not been as dogmatic about that.
It's interesting to see just Chinese, they're not being they're not being necessarily super targeted with the international products that they're slowing down on purchasing, right? We saw Caring Group's sales were down 30% year over year, and we're seeing that broadly in luxury goods. And then the same thing, they're not in the iPhone sales too, right? So it's more sort of utilitarian products like phones and cars, and then also luxury goods. So and this is probably, there's probably a lot under the surface in terms of the CCP and the Chinese government broadly saying, hey, we need to switch from an export. If the world's sort of going through this period of deglobalization, we need to switch from an export-based economy, which they'll continue to be to some degree, but we also need to be consuming the products that we produce internally and having more of this sort of consumption-based economy, because they can't be reliant on growing foreign exports to the same degree, or having people move into cities, which also drives that consumption. So all of this will be interesting to play out. I went the last time I was at a mall, I went by, there was one of these Chinese EV manufacturers that was like set up there. They had like two cars in a box, and they were sort of marketing them. And I hope these products don't catch on, one, for our sort of local manufacturers, and then two, they're just like ugly and like cheap in my opinion, and I just don't want to see them on the road. The other thing,
there's already crazy tariffs, so most of these cars are not viable to sell in the United States, and I think there's tons of pressure. And then of course Elon being so close with Trump, like there's going to be tons of pressure against this trend. So I wouldn't count on any of these products really going,
but one thing that's interesting is so Azar in the chat mentioned, he says the US will probably cut EV subsidies soon, which is scaring investors, which we can see in the stock price. But the interesting thing with the Elon Trump dynamic is that you can imagine Trump would ignoring the Elon relationship, would just say, why are these EV companies getting all these subsidies? Like, why are we paying, why are we subsidizing the cost of these for, let them compete on the free market, right? Yeah. But then he's boys with Trump he's boys with Elon, and that would be super damaging to Tesla. And so it's an interesting, I'm interested to see how that dynamic
There's another
plays out.
Interesting cultural thing, kind of going back to like the different factory worker, philosophies. There's the Han, I forget what company this is, but it's a Chinese electric sedan called the Han, and they have different trim levels. And in America, you want a bigger number. Everything's bigger is better in America. Everything's bigger in Texas. You want a bigger engine. So, something like a BMW, you might get a 328i, 335i. Same thing with a Mercedes E350, or what are the 6.3 liter V8s and the AMGs. And so you want a higher number, you want a bigger number, pretty much always. But they don't have that culture in China. And so the trim levels are just the 0 to 60 time. And so you can buy like the Han 3.6, the Han
That's
2.8.
Actually a better, I love that system.
Yeah. And so you're driving behind a car and you're just like, oh, the 2.5 that goes 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, which is
Yeah,
hilarious.
when we're driving in the work in the morning and
Yeah.
wondering who we should drag race,
Yeah.
now it's a much easier way to figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought it was hilarious culturally, but it really goes to
No,
the
you
fact
know
that
the
like there are no
interesting
priors, there's no standards, so it's just like,
that's
yeah, do whatever.
in sort of adjacent to this in the UAE,
Yeah.
they people the license plates, you have to like buy them, and there's
Oh
like a
yeah,
secondary
that's right.
market for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. Of
And
course.
so the most coveted license plates are these like the king will have like one, and
Yeah,
then if you see somebody with like seven, like they're a big dog, and so
yeah,
like they're probably a part of
yeah,
the royal family,
yeah.
or
Because everyone has $1 million car. Like that's not
yeah.
special. You need to
And
add a
so
couple $1 million in like license plate
yeah, and
flexing on top of it.
they'll trade for $20 million just for the
It's
plate,
so
because
crazy.
if you have more money than you know what to do with, you might as well find out one more way to signal
Yeah.
to the other people on the road.